We're traveling all around the world with this next review. We're going around the world in 80 days with Sue with the Poplar Bluff Public Library. And Sue, this is a movie that came out in the mid-50s, and this is a movie that won Best Picture. It's got one of your favorite actors in it, David Niven. And I tell you what surprised me the most about this film. This film I'd never seen before, but the cinematography of this film.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Beautiful. Like the very, very first scene. I don't know how they did it. They had a guy ride one of those old school bicycles where it's like the big wheel and the small wheel kind of thing. And it almost looked like they had a GoPro camera on the back of it. And the view was just so beautiful. Like, how did they get the camera on there? There was so many shots like that throughout the entire film. The cinematography and the music in this film. Beautiful. I loved it. What did you think?
Well, I loved it, but you were talking about the cinematography. They were actually using an invention of Mike Todd, the producers, called AO technology in the cameras, and this was one of the first films, and it got a special award for using that particular camera type.
Look at this, man. Look at Sue bringing the information. I love it.
Chris and I just always have fun with this. But I want to talk about the guy riding the bicycle.
Please do.
His name was Cantinflas. That was his stage name. And he was a Mexican actor. And he was considered the wealthiest actor in the world at the time. He was a huge deal from a worldwide point of view.
Really?
And this fellow was really named Mario Fortino Alfonso Moreno Reyes.
That's a mouthful.
That is a mouthful. And he actually went known as casually as Mario Moreno, but his professional name was Cantinflas. And they actually wrote some scenes in this film specifically for him, and that was one of them was the bullfight scene.
Sure.
Because this fellow was acrobatic. He was so well known worldwide. Maybe not. And this was his first American debut in American film. So I just think, wow, he was a huge deal, and most Americans wouldn't have known about him.
Of course, I knew nothing.
I didn't either. But it's sort of, as I'm doing the research, I'm looking. See, that's what the library does to you. It makes you look stuff.
Information is good. Information is good.
But it's a great film in terms of the scenery, even the going, and some of the way that it's shot. And Chris, if you don't mind my giving some boring statistics. One is, the boring statistic is, this is based on a Jules Verne novel. And Jules Verne was a writer of the 19th century. So as a result, he was writing in the 1870s, 1880s, 90s, and up. And he's, in fact, he's Voyage to the Center of the Earth is one of his films. So he was writing things of a fantastical nature. But he really felt that people could go around the world in 80 days at that time, 1870, because of trains and the way way ship transport was at that time. And David Niven plays this clock-watching guy who says, if we stay with the schedule and stay with what's going to happen, we can do this.
Sure.
Just think about it. They said 80 days was fantastical in 1870. So I did the math, folks. The space station goes around the Earth in 92 minutes. That's 7/10,000ths of 80 days. So that tells you, I know, I do the math. In 140 years, we reduced that number down considerably. But let's talk about the film. It's considered the single largest film project ever undertaken. It was shot in 75 days, less than the 80 days it took to go around the world. The film used 140 sets at 6 Hollywood studios. So all of these Hollywood studios had to cooperate. They also filmed in England, Hong Kong, and Japan. It set several records. Wait to hear this. Cast and crew flew over 4 million miles. 68,894 extras, who's counting, in 13 countries. 74,685 costumes. 1,243 extras. And there were 90 animal handlers for 8,552 animals. And that went from 3,800 sheep all the way down to 4 ostriches.
You've got it to the detail, Sue. That's why we have you on the show, man. When we want to know things, we get Sue on.
Well, I mean, I have fun with it as I knock things around here. But whenever you read those kinds of things, it tells you that this film was a huge deal. That
Sure.
It took a lot of coordination, and it took a lot of logistics to be able to handle that kind of thing. And we're talking about 1956, folks, not 2018. 1956, they were able to pull all this off in 75 days.
It's amazing.
I think it's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
And it is a good film.
It is a good film. It is a very, very won Best Picture for crying out loud. So it's a great film. It's one of those epics. Great cinematography, great score. The cast, it has, even though we've only got like 2 or 3 main characters, we have an all-star cast of people who are known in the industry. Everybody from Buster Keaton to Shirley MacLaine was in it as well.
Shirley MacLaine is in it as well. In fact, Shirley MacLaine is one of the main characters. Mm-hmm. And then we have people like Frank Sinatra has a small role, Marlena Dietrich. All of these are names. Sir John Gielgud is in the film. Red Skelton has a small role. So if you keep going on, and my favorite is Buster Keaton as a train engineer. He must have ate that up. Every boy wants to be a train engineer, right?
Very true.
Yeah. So you have to watch this film because you learn about an actor that you might not have ever known about, as well as actors that are well known to all of us, even in this day and time. And I want to say that of the actors that are still living, I think Shirley MacLaine may be one of the few that's still living out of the film.
I think you're right. All right, Sue. Movie was Around the World in 80 Days. We got about 90 seconds left here of the show. We're in late March. What do we got coming up at the library?
Speaking of theater, we have Shakespeare coming up, and that's going to be April 14th in the Library Theater downstairs. It'll be an afternoon showing. It's the St. Louis Shakespeare Festival coming in, just like they've done now. This is their 5th time to visit with us, and they're doing Romeo and Juliet. Also, the Animal Welfare Alliance is having their art show during that same time. So if you want to look for art and theater in Poplar Bluff, I think March and April have got you covered. Everything from The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, which just completed, 12 Angry Men. We have Romeo and Juliet. We have art shows. We have Night at the Museum. There are all kinds of things going on in this town, and I dare you to tell me there's nothing to do.
I won't do
there's
it.
A bunch.
I
There's
won't
a
do
bunch.
it.
Well, and I'm glad and proud to say that the library is a part of that. So.
She's Sue. She's with the Poplar Bluff Public Library, where you can watch movies, you can read books, you can listen to music, you can check out comic books, you can bring your kids to learn. You can even, last time I was there, I was walking down the stairs and I had to do a double take. I was like, is that a fishing pole? And I went to the front desk. I'm like, you guys have fishing poles. What's this all about? And apparently you can rent fishing poles.
Exactly. In fact, we had 3 checked out yesterday.
Fishing poles, people. Fishing poles. It's all at the Poplar Bluff Public Library. Make sure you go by, see Sue and the entire staff. They really work hard, do a great job to make things great around this community. So check them out today, okay? Sue, thank you for being on the show.
Thanks, Chris. I really appreciate it. Thank you all for listening.
That's Sue. I'm Chris. We are the Screen Team, and we want you to know before you go.